You might see it happen in some other way for someone else that you realize it's different than what you thought. So for me, when I got to college, I had still, had the idea that I was going to be an actress. And I had to, realize like, okay, I may not ever have a chance of being successful at this. Mm-hmm. They were telling me in college, like 10% of people who set out to do this actually do it and have work in it and continue to do it, because it is quite difficult. And most people are competing against so many other people who want to do it and who have a lot of different talents. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, fair, right? And then I went to New York City. I thought, okay, I made it to the next tier here. Like, I've done something that I think means something. And so I get to New York. And like I said, I didn't get signed immediately out of school, which was fine. A lot of us didn't. But I continued to want to do it. And I think that's when I realized, no, I'm actually in this for the long haul.
You was in the field, for real.
Are you ready, Katie? Pull up in a spaceship, feeling like the Jetsons. Probably out of the universe, driving on a mission. I've been searching for a while, chasing all the visions. Burning all the reefer up, feeling like the Jetsons. I'ma be supreme, yeah, it's be supreme. I'ma be supreme, yeah, it's be supreme, yeah. Pop up out the space, cool, we gon' find a place to go. I'ma be supreme, only curls we be facing up, yeah.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Be Supreme Spotlight. I'm your host, Boosie Dawkins, and we got a very special episode today. I got a longtime friend in here today, and I'm actually in her place. So I'll step back, I'll allow her to introduce herself and tell y'all where she's from.
Hello, I am Piper Barks. I am from North Carolina. As Boosie said, we went to high school together, and then I decided to move to New York City, so that's where we are now.
That's where we are now?
Yes.
Okay, and what do you do?
I am an actress, but I do a few other things. I am in the service industry. I also am an axe thrower, so when I'm not auditioning for roles, I am in Brooklyn throwing axes at wooden boards for fun and for work, and that is also pretty theatrical.
So you good at it? You good at it?
I'm all right, yeah.
You think you can beat me? You think you can beat me?
Oh, yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, I ain't played officially, so, but I don't think I could lose. Ain't no way I would lose to you.
You would. Yeah, I'm pretty good, actually.
We might have to see about that before I leave.
You're gonna have to come through. Okay. I mean, anyone should come through when you're in New York, or I don't know. Do they have them in North Carolina?
Yeah, they got axe throwers, in different places. Actually, somebody I interviewed, they had, the lawyer I was telling you about, he had the axe throwing.
Right.
Yeah. So, you did a couple projects, correct?
I've done some work, yes.
So what work have you done?
So when I moved to New York City, I was in a conservatory, which is a school for artists. And I graduated from that after 1 year and started immediately working at a famous restaurant named Raclette as a cheese scraper, hostess, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the very first and one of the bigger projects I've done so far is based on that experience, which is called Check Please. And that was written by Marine Estesante, who is French, who also moved to New York City to be a movie star in the States. Mm-hmm. She was actually quite successful in France before she moved here. And we became immediate friends in school through Michael Howard Studios. And so Check Please is basically focused on people trying to make it in the acting industry here, but also the immigrant experience, because she came from France. I, of course, am not from out of the States, but I also migrated from a very small town to New York City and had a lot to learn about how things operate here. Yeah. But so I've done that. I've done a few different commercials. I have done some independent films, which have proved to been very wonderful and great things to work on. But in terms of things like television and film, we're still working on that stuff.
You still working on that stuff?
I'm still working on
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so what is your ideal role for yourself?
I really love women focused or women centric casts. Primarily, a lot of the things that I've watched on television that are series that focus on female experiences and things that are, I think, really well written, but also have really good acting, because not everything has those qualities. So I would love to be on television on any show, really, basically, but those are my more ideal things. And then, of course, the movies. Like, who wouldn't want to be in a movie?
Oh, yeah, but you were saying you don't want to do no horror. You're not really with the horror.
I didn't say I don't want to.
Okay.
I said it's not my thing.
We don't want to put that out. You're right. We ain't
from the record.
It wasn't out there. Okay. She will do horror.
Absolutely.
Talk to the agent. Talk to the agent about that. But that's not at the top of your list of goals, is to do horror genre.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Correct. I mean, truthfully, I just want to do stuff that's real, that is not what I would say a lot of things that people focus on now. Like, a lot of it is just about, how people look and how people sort of have connections already, it seems. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. But I think it's more just about creating work that is riveting, that is real, and that other people can relate to.
So you would like to do more like drama pieces?
Yes.
Drama. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, comedy is great. Sitcoms are great, but comedy is actually quite hard, or difficult, I should say, to do. It's got a lot more sort of things that go rhythmically, and that timing. That's
everything
the biggest. Yes.
Yeah. For sure.
Right. And type. There's a lot of type people in comedies, right? Whereas, I'm kind of looking more for expanding and doing a variety of things. But the first role I was really cast in was comedic, and that's because we do have to stick to our true nature, especially in the beginning. That's what we're more accurate at.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Do you think that you have you ever seen yourself ever get like typecasted?
Yes, absolutely.
Like for a certain type?
Yes. I mean, I would say that, when you get to auditions, yes, you're typically auditioning for something that the role looks like what you look like, is around the same age, is looking for a certain type of person, because that is essentially, at the end of the day, where people get their ideas from, is from things that they've seen before, and mixed with, imagination and things that they're hoping for. So I think, it'd be great to stay in a world, you get any role that you want, but especially, again, for people who are starting out and for people who are not huge name celebrities, we have to kind of play off of what we do well. And that's just the fact of it. So, but it's still just, no matter what, it's a job, it's an art form, and it's going in and being able to convince people certain things about what you're able to do. And a lot of that comes with age, experience, and training. So it just depends.
Okay, so like we're gonna be jumping around a couple, because you got a lot of layers to you, so we're gonna be jumping around.
I'm like an onion.
Yeah, we gotta get all the way to the center of it.
Okay.
So like like you said, you moved from the South to New York, not just any part of New York. You moved to New York City, Manhattan. Like, if anybody can talk about like how that is a crazy transition, it will be you, because that's one of the most extreme transitions you really could make, honestly. So what was it like? What did you see having to go through that?
I learned so much, and I was in college, and I was, like many people graduating college, unsure of where I was going to go and unsure of what would happen, because I was getting a theater degree, which is not ideal for a lot of people, even though many people can work from that degree. When you're trying to get a job, say in New York City, doesn't mean as much, maybe. And I say that with some sort of carefulness, because maybe it has done some things for a lot of people. If you go to a really nice school, for instance, like Juilliard, or if you go to Yale, those places, then a theater degree means everything. But for me, I came from UNC Charlotte, and UNC Charlotte is got its own sort of thing going for it. It's really became more of a circus focused type theater program. At least when I was leaving there, they were exploring that sort of arena, which is great for them, because not a lot of schools in North Carolina do that. Mm-hmm. But when I was getting ready to graduate, I went to a program where I met these people who were in New York City, working in New York City at this school, and they said, we'd love for you to come and audition. And I auditioned, and I will never forget being in my apartment in Charlotte and getting the call from, a New York area code, and them saying, hey, we've accepted you into this school, and you're going to be here in fall if you want to be. And I was like, I can't believe, all my dreams are like coming true. And
that was one of the best feelings of your life.
I will never forget it. And I just thought, wow, like I'm going to actually make it to New York City, which is something I had said I would do since I was a kid. But, all of our friends in high school are like, we'll see about that. You're a little wild. But, I was still just starting out. I was still just a kid. And so when I moved to New York City, I moved to a very, very, very small apartment. It was a studio, and I shared it with one other girl and both of our cats. So we had a time living in that place, and a lot of stuff happened over those few years. I didn't get signed immediately out of school, which...
And around what year was this?
This was 2016, so I graduated 2015, moved to New York that fall, and during the 1-year program, actually, just 4 months into being in school in New York, I got hit by a car.
Wow.
And yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Did it affect you? It was something that was severe?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was hit by a car, which actually happens more often than you think, or
hold on, I'm gonna let you finish. I already, since I've been up here, I've seen that happen. So I know. Yes, I seen it. I was at Times Square. I seen somebody across the street. Car just came, boom, hit him, and kept going. And the police wasn't too far. They didn't even move that quick to get there. Like they was like moving slow.
And they don't.
They was moving slow because it was like a homeless person or something. They wasn't really caring at that point. So I think they did. I seen the ambulance coming back down and everything. But I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know that it happens.
Listen, it's some bullshit. It happens so often here, and people most of the time, it's not so severe because we don't drive that fast in the city. We hopefully, at least, where our streets are, like maximum like 15, 20 miles an hour.
They don't drive fast?
They don't drive.
There's some fast driving.
There's some fast drivers. Well, you're talking about aggressiveness. There's aggressive drivers.
They'll go.
But our speed limit is
they'll go
25.
50 and 25.
Yeah, but with the traffic in the city, it really doesn't work out that way. It's like the way I was hit. There was a car coming down an avenue the wrong direction and just like swerved onto my street. And so I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was getting out of a car and they sideswiped me. And so I was in the bike lane, but I mean, they stopped. So I will say, when the cops came, the cops didn't do very much for me either, but they were like, we'll take you to the hospital.
Dang.
I was
called the ambulance.
20. Yeah, I was 22 years old, and I was turning 23 in about 2 weeks. And my parents were actually with me, so they were traumatized as well. But God, thank God, I was fine and I survived, and I didn't have much damage. However, I was still in school at the time, so all of these acting classes and dance classes and stuff, I couldn't actually move for a while and participate. And it also really challenged my idea of purpose, because I'm thinking, well, I got into this school, I moved up to New York City, I got my dreams, and then I get hit by a car, almost die. Like, what's up with that? Like, what is going on there? And so that was challenging, because I had always been like very religious, and I had always things happen in my life because there's something that is guiding it, hopefully. And I did seriously question for a while, why would this happen? But again, I was still relatively lucky to come out of it the way I did, no problem. And it did eventually play some sort of role into how well I was able to cope with school at the time. And I will say that some of my friends, they were troopers in dealing with me at that time, because I was in a different place, and I came through it. And then I started working immediately in the service industry, and eventually, was able to learn from those mistakes and say, this is what happened. It wasn't necessarily my fault, but also I take full responsibility for the way in which it may have affected this situation here, and prayed for forgiveness, and also had a lot of people say, we totally get it, and we support you. My cat is going crazy. I really hope that she's not going to be just like in the background of this video the whole time.
Oh, no, you won't.
Just like notice. Crying.
You won't even notice. I promise.
I'm sorry, baby. But anyways, yeah. So then it was a lot to learn, and there's like New York City is a beast. It does function and operate so differently than North Carolina, and I'm also really grateful for the fact that I came from North Carolina first and then moved to New York City, because I got to grow up where we grew up with, like a very carefree sort of childhood, at least in my opinion. That's how it was.
Definitely.
And then, yeah, you move to New York City, you realize that competition just like oozes out of people's veins here at every second. People are competitive, and you kind of just have to be like, all right, roll with the punches. And then
that's the one element that I see that like raising kids here will be kind of hectic.
Yeah, but people do it, and New Yorkers will amaze you at how much they on every single day get up and still choose their choices, and still choose to work as hard as they do, and still a lot of us are only mildly successful, and will be, probably not billionaires by the end of our lives, but we are still focused on the dream and on things that we believe better humanity. And that's not every single person maybe in New York, but we really do have a lot of integrity for the average human, I would say.
So what would you say to a person, a woman or a man, that was thinking that they might want to move to New York? Like, what type of advice you would give them?
I would say that it is difficult, and it is scary, but it is possible. And that, when I was moving here, I had no connections to New York City. I didn't have family in New York City. I didn't know anyone in New York City except for the people that were bringing me into the school that I was going to. And thank God they did, because that gave me the community that I have now. And I truthfully don't think that I would have the connections in New York City that I have today without those people who, when I started, I just sort of had a base to kind of rely on. But, New York City is a place where you move here and you meet people pretty quickly. You have people all around you all the time, and there are people who will respond to you and respond to just general humanity and being kind, I think. Of course we have the people who are like, and all this, but we do, I think, not get enough credit for how much we are community people. With that being said, there's tons of markets in cities that didn't exist when I was really coming up. Like Charlotte is a whole different place than it was when I was in school. Atlanta is a great place to go, and many of my friends are actually much more successful in Atlanta.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really like wherever you are, you can actually find work there if you're in one of these big cities in any state pretty much, and you can work and have a wonderful career.
Yeah.
I think the idea of what, being an actor has always been like, well, I want to be famous. And a lot of us maybe do or do not want that. But if you are looking to be an artist for your entire life, are you sure you're not going to be able to hear this cat?
No, you're good. I promise you.
All righty.
Yeah, you're good.
It's gonna sound like I'm like neglecting her, but I swear she's fine. She's a menace. Anyways, it's funny too because we were worried about her being here and like running around, but now she's actually just as equally distracting from a whole different room. What was I saying?
You were talking about the strength that a person would have to move to New York, but you was also saying that there's other markets you can go to now.
Yes, thank you. So he does pay attention. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
I have total recall.
Right. No matter what. Professional. So yes, I would say you can stay in these networks. You don't have to go to New York City, but New York City is a great place to do art anywhere and everywhere. You can literally go out on the street and be, doing some juggling and like put a hat out and people walk by and be like, that's an artist. And give you some money. Yeah. So
they definitely will be out here hustling. They gonna hustle their art now.
They do. And you go on the subway and there's people making real music off of, like.
But that's something I think I talked to you about the other night, if you remember in the discussions. That like up here, like people who respect artists, they respect them enough to pay for the art. In a lot of places, a lot of cities, a lot of towns, especially the smaller ones, they're not understanding. And sometimes it's a lot of factors that play into that as well. Like some people if they don't make the money, they can't pay the money, so they don't have that. But also, in some places they don't understand that certain things require a certain amount of money. Like you shouldn't pay an artist just anything because they're artists.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, I mean, there's people in New York City asking for money at every turn. So for me, I'm like, if I'm going to give money to anybody on the street, I want it to be an artist. Yeah. I want it to be someone who is out there every chance they get just trying to like spread joy or love through their artwork to people. And I think that's incredible. And I think that's really more of an artist than most people are, But I think that you have more opportunities now, like us everyday people, creators are at the best time for bringing our own content because you have the talk, right? You have the whatever they call it, and you have Instagram, you have reels, you have things that you can make now from just like your phone, and it will look like a real production, and you can just put it online, retweet it a few times, and I see people doing that every day, like for my hometown, who they just have personality and they have ideas and they just threw it on the internet, and some of them have way more success in general than I do after working at it for like decades, So I think there's something to be said about the age we're living in and how easy it is to just kind of like put anything that you want on a platform and seeing how it gets recycled throughout the world, because it does all go into something, whether we think so or not, and it's all relevant. It's all a circle of things that we're hearing and that we are then thinking and that we're dreaming, and then somehow it ends up in a conversation that you hear someone else talking about down the street one day, and you're like, wait a second, why is this all so familiar?
Yeah.
It's because, you know, we do live in this universe that people are watching and people are listening and people are talking about. And so it's good and it's not. And I think I wish I did more of it, to be honest. That's why I'm glad you're here.
We're gonna do more of it. That's what we're gonna do. And your series, Check Please. What was your role in it?
So I played the hostess, the very sassy hostess, Southern hostess. So again, typecast, yes, but what I was good at. And I'm one of the main characters. I'm obviously not the lead. That's Maureen Asante, who wrote and produced and had a big part in creating a web series for really the first time ever. And now she's kind of like leading other people to that sort of same thing, because web series are sort of this great way to get projects out there and like prove, you know, that you're a filmmaker, you know. So filmmaking is also just a big part of the career in general. Almost everyone I know who I went to school with has at some point made a short film of their own or has helped produce a short film, because that's really where a lot of people get started in the business in general.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
While you're on the channel, check out some of our short films.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the process like making it?
Crazy. We filmed in Raclette restaurant at the time. It was a small restaurant, and the holding area was down underneath the restaurant. So our entire cast and crew, when they were not filming, had to go down these stairs in this sort of dungeon and like just like sit there and wait hours at a time. And we did overnight shoots. So typically you would do any filming from most of the time during the day till 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock p.m., 9 o'clock p.m. But we're starting around 11 p.m. midnight, and we're going to be going until 10 a.m. the next day. And then if you have to work after that, good luck. And it was
commitment.
Woo, yeah. It was absolutely commitment, and it was right before the pandemic. So we filmed the first 3 episodes with some money that we raised through one of the fundraisers that is popular for raising money for films, and we got a certain amount, we got the green light, and then we used that to film the first 3 episodes of Check Please. And so I am primarily in the first episode. I'm one of the very first people you see, and I'm welcoming, Maureen into the restaurant, and she's trying to get a job as a waitress, as a French waitress who's also trying to be an actress. And, I'm just the sassy hostess, because sassy hostesses actually are very powerful in New York City. We decide who gets to eat. And so, it's kind of like the Sex and the City quote is really true about it. But
what's the quote?
There's one episode in the beginning.
Out there, you gotta let them know.
Yeah, Carrie Bradshaw, she says, the most powerful woman in Manhattan, and she's like the hostess of Balzac. I think it was Balzac. And it's like this beautiful hostess, and she won't let Carrie Bradshaw and Samantha have a seat in the restaurant. She's like, I'm busy, and all this. And so eventually I started serving, and servers in New York City make a killing, like a lot of money. And so when I was very young, I made a lot of money doing it. So I did it, and I actually learned a lot, again, about the industry and how people sort of function doing other things. Like some of the most incredible people I've ever met, who are some of real designers and artists and producers in New York City and the rest of the world, have been people I've worked with in restaurants. And that's a really telling thing. Like there's people who can't, make millions and millions of dollars every year from what they do, but they do their work, they do it well enough, and they are considered professionals and still have to make a buck at the end of the day and make rent at the end of the day. So they do serving or hostessing or whatever on the side. And people don't know how often when they're at a restaurant that they're actually getting served by a rock star. It's crazy to me. That's why I'm always like, be nice to your servers. You have no idea who they are. You have no idea how successful they are outside of that restaurant most of the time. Most of the time they are serious people. I know Broadway stars who do it, and I know people who are on design television shows who do it, and I respect the hell out of them. I know that they're geniuses, and I'm just grateful to know a lot of people that I think are going to be huge. And so I'm like, I'm just sitting here like, whether or not it happens for me, I know it'll happen to a lot of the people I know. And so
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen because you're working. You're gonna work. You're gonna continue to work, and it's gonna happen. Talent always gonna show up for sure.
Right. So. Take that, Kim K. Ha.
Hold on.
No, I'm kidding. Strike that from the record.
You trying to mess me up over here. Who said I didn't want no sponsorship or something with the Kardashians?
Oh, Lord.
Well, no, I can't say stuff like that. No.
If you're here, I didn't mean it. I love you. I'm kidding. I'm just saying,
Close up on that face that you just made.
Yeah.
I love
Absolutely
you.
not.
I love you.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any? I know you've heard the writers are on strike.
Yes.
Got an opinion on it?
AKA just started today at 12:01 on the dot. Yeah. Yes, I am aware. I have
for the people that don't know. I'm sorry. The Hollywood writers or script writers, film writers are on strike right now. Okay.
It's fine. It's just like a fire inside the brain, and you're like, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be a good thing. It's going to be essentially, better for everyone, I think. But yeah, from time to time, this happens. From time to time, there has to be a reassessment of sources and the value of those sources and what we're really doing when we sort of have people who want to make good art, who want to influence the world in positive ways, and then we have people who have taken the route of, well, is fake television better? Is staged drama that seems to be real life drama better? What should we really be focusing on right now? Because the ratings are what speaks.
Yeah.
The ratings and the money and the influence is what talks now. So it is, it's a little intimidating, but at the end of the day, I am not going to be super, super affected by it because, again, I'm not working in Hollywood constantly right now on television shows and movies and things. But I do know that it is something that is on all of our minds about what's going to happen and how it will affect each of us, and individually and collectively.
What's interesting about it? I heard maybe like 2 weeks ago that it was coming. And I don't remember who it was I was listening to was talking about it, and they're a filmmaker as well, but they was talking from their standpoint. That's when they about to start getting, they're independent. They about to start getting their movies out and stuff, because now that means the market is going to dry up because these people ain't writing for them. So that's why a lot of it, because there's another side to it. So now you have the independent people that's going to start producing their own stuff. Or it might be the writers. Some of the writers themselves might get into directing as well and casting. So
yes, I mean, I think anytime it happens, people are always, it's a disruption. It's something that's, we had a certain flow going, and now what's the flow going to be, and how does the flow change from here? And that's fair, but it was already kind of like a drought for artists. It's been noticeably and talked about how slow the industry has been for a few months now.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like we were all just at a high with our auditioning and with getting called in right now. A lot of us were getting less auditions than
almost
we have
everything
been.
is slowing down right now in
Yeah.
America. Like almost everything
Yeah.
right now is slowing
Yeah, there's a lot happening, but
down.
I mean, at the end of the day, again, I go back to, the power of what you have in your hand, which is almost everyone has a phone and almost everyone can create content.
Right.
And promote yourself, just promote your work, and that's all I can emphasize over and over again is just, getting out there. And I mean, get with the people that you know, because they also have ideas a lot of the time. And
Right.
It takes focus and dedication and work to see it through and see it happen, but you can learn a lot from, other people's opinions, and maybe not letting that change your work entirely, but letting it influence how you can be even more successful and understood on even more levels.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I like that. I like that. Give us your 3 favorite sitcom shows.
sitcoms. Oh no!
Yeah, sitcom shows.
Could I instead
You could just do shows.
shows? Yes,
You could do
sitcoms.
shows.
Okay, like
So you're not a sitcom person.
I'm doing great. No horror, no sitcom.
I mean, I don't know why. You saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to do that in any way, shape, or form.
It's okay. Whatever. You can do shows.
Yes, okay. I can do that.
Yeah.
So currently, right now, what I'm watching.
No, period. Forever.
Period. Forever.
Like since a kid.
Most memorable, most influential, most, I think, relative and sticks out immediately is some of the biggest ones that changed my perspective of TV and filmmaking in general was, of course, Sex and the City.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yes.
I mean, look at what you did.
Right. I know. It's impossible not to bring up the mother of all New York City queens. I think that and Orange is the New Black. When Orange is the New Black came out, oh my God, yeah. I was just astounded at how good the work was and how much I thought like that new sort of era, because that was really when they first started using dramedy. I think like that was a cross between drama and comedy, and that was right up my alley for like the stuff that I think is my favorite.
Yeah, they killed Orange is the New Black.
Yes, Orange is the New Black, and before Orange is the New Black was Desperate Housewives.
Desperate Housewives.
So that's your 3 favorite shows. Yeah, you said pick 3, and they're not. And I have many favorites. I have many favorites. Okay, the ones I'm watching right now are also really good.
Let's change this up. If you can insert yourself into 3 different
shows right now,
what would it be? And it don't have to be a show that's actually running right now. It could be anytime.
Any show. Working Moms. Working Moms is one of them. You.
Oof,
yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Who wouldn't want to be in you though?
Be cold.
Yes. This is a little bit horror, right?
I mean, but if you getting up out of here early, probably, because unless you his girlfriend, they gonna have the kid.
Yeah, well,
ain't too many characters.
They have that. They had some this past season that I was.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched the last season yet. So.
You got to check the latest season. And Yellow Jackets.
Yellow Jackets. Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. It is. It's also horror for sure, but it's like.
So you'll be in it. Now you just said you wouldn't do the horror.
I didn't say I wouldn't do horror. I will do horror. Literally, I will do it tomorrow, today, anytime. It's horror, but it's also intermixed with, it's like these girls get in a plane crash when they're in high school, and then it follows between that happening and them as adults. Mm-hmm. So it has like the real time stuff versus the plane crash and when they had to survive in the wilderness. And so yeah.
So did you watch anything as a kid that kind of influenced you to want to be a actress?
Going with the Wind. Yes. That was, I think, like the first time I saw someone on television, and it was Scarlett O'Hara and Vivian Lee as Scarlett O'Hara, and that is, I think, like the earliest memory I have of just being like, pointing at the screen and looking at my parents and saying, this is me. This is what I want to do.
Around how old do you think you
4
were?
or 5 years old,
Oh,
4 or
really?
5. And my parents tell me that to this day. They tell me, because it's before I even remember. They're like, you have said it since you were a baby, that you were going to do it, that you wanted to do this, and I've kept at it.
I feel like a lot of people in this, you come to find that it was like that, where it's almost their whole life they knew, or it was like it was guiding them towards that direction in some type of way.
Yes.
Like but even for you to continue down that line with that passion, you have to have known for a long time, because it's hard to have the passion to continue to keep going even when they get hard. Because a lot of people can do things because they see it and it looks cool, it looks interesting. Then when you learn what really comes with it and you continue to do it, I mean, that's a passion.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, our ideas of what it means is always changing. Our ideas of what our own success, or what success in general means, it's always changing. It's always, you think it's one thing, and then you might see it happen in some other way for someone else that you realize is different than what you thought. So for me, when I got to college, I had still, had the idea that I was going to be an actress. And I had to, realize, like, okay, I may not ever have a chance of being successful at this. Mm-hmm. They were telling me in college, like 10% of people who set out to do this actually do it and have work in it and continue to do it, because it is quite difficult. And most people are competing against so many other people who want to do it and who have a lot of different talents. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, fair, right? And then I went to New York City. I thought, okay, I made it to the next tier here. Like, I've done something that I think means something. And so I get to New York. And like I said, I didn't get signed immediately out of school, which was fine. A lot of us didn't. But I continued to want to do it. And I think that's when I realized, no, I'm actually in this for the long haul. Yeah. Like, I've heard people talk about what separates, an artist from people who just want to be famous. Right. And it's a lot of the time people who are willing to go and do the work, sometimes hours at a time, sometimes overnight, inconvenienced, and not even get that much screen time. Just, have
the work that people don't even see. Like, right. That's the work that they don't even see. They'll see, even if they might see you for 6 seconds, 5 seconds, they don't know what the work went in to seeing that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, and that goes for every profession pretty much. Right. We all think that it's one way, and then a person who actually does that thing will tell you it's actually a lot more. And I acknowledge that on every level. I think we're all, not paid enough, but I think it's just it's something that if it's in your soul, you're going to want to do it no matter what. And whether I'm lucky or completely unfortunate, it is a part of my soul is what I'm going to do. And so that's what I have been doing. But again, it always is like the land of opportunity, and it's becoming more and more broad in the terms that you can maybe start out one way, end up on a different path, but still kind of end up doing what you wanted to do in the long run. It's just a matter of how you're yourself going to get to what you do and what you
because everything is kind of evolving. Because if you look at even maybe actors or actresses that've been trying to break in for years, like the way that we consume content now is different. So you might have to evolve in the type of content you want to be in, like, because the series, they wasn't even coming out years ago. You think about 10 years ago, like they didn't have docu-series. Right. Like it might be a documentary, but it wasn't a docu-series. It wasn't different things. So now it's just expanding the types of content. So I feel like part of that, you got to evolve with the time, or you got to keep evolving.
And then podcasts were a thing for a while. And then all of a sudden in the past 5-10 years, there's some people who became really successful off that and stuff. Yeah. And it's a struggle for sure for artists who are at any given time between trying to make ends meet and also hoping for their big break. Because I'm like, okay, how much longer can I live without consistent health insurance, right? Like my jobs in the industries don't typically have health insurance. So I'm expected to either, pay out of pocket, or, New York is a little bit better than some other states at providing it for people who don't make a certain amount. However, it's a real thing that you never know where your next job is coming from. Sometimes you have to still make a ridiculous amount of rent in New York City, no matter where you live at this point. And you also, at any given time, are thinking, do I just go and just scrap the whole thing and get a legitimate job and a legitimate career so that people kind of, respect you, or think, more of you. Society values you as this, right? Because you have a DR behind your name, or a master's, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's, again, we have our way of thinking things are going to happen and trying to do our little things every day in those strides. And 100%, that is most of the time how you're going to be successful, is putting in the work and dedicating your time, even though a lot of us have less and less of it, it seems. But then there's also going to be the things that happen that are unexpected. And that's where I feel like a lot of the time great success comes from, is that the things we don't know or plan for ourselves that then come along and change things. And hopefully they're positive, but we learn from positive and negative both, so we learn and grow from all of it.
And what do you do during those times? Because I know you got to go through it, because I go through it. A lot of people in creative period go through it, where it's like, I want to be like you. You could be happy at some work, because like you probably look at your work sometime and you're proud of it, you're happy, and then you're like, I want to be doing this now. I want to be doing that now. Like, is that a feeling you ever have to fight?
Sure, of course, absolutely. I mean, there's times where you almost book your next big thing. It's like, I remember back in November, back in September, I was filming a short film, and I got a call about an audition that I had gotten a call back for. Basically, that it was a television show, and the producers were like, "We want you. We're really seriously considering you." And it literally came down to vaccination status, because not to make this a political thing. I am vaccinated completely, but it's also that I wasn't up to date with that record, that they put on pause. They're like, well, we need someone who is this. And I said, well, I can go today and get vaccinated and be on set in 2 days when you need me. And they went another direction. So I'm like, shit. Oops, I just cursed. I made it this whole time.
I told you, don't.
Can we strike that from the record? I'm just going to keep saying that.
You did it. That can't be struck.
Okay, my bad. Oops, I'm sorry. Anyways, and so, like when those things happen, you're like, oh, I'm this close, I'm going to make it. And that's going to be, the thing that gets me in the door here. But it is also just kind of accepting, that we got considered. Somebody out of all the people that they were seeing, and applicants and beautiful, talented people that are auditioning, they decided, actually, you are one of the people that we're going to put possibly in this role. And that's those moments that you have to hang on to, and you have to cherish, and you have to say, well, I was considered, and just hope that they'll keep you in mind for the next time, or that in a few cycles they'll end up with your name in front of them again, be like, why is this person familiar, and then be like, okay, it takes time, and it takes just steady belief that it will eventually work out. And in the meanwhile, still just working on all of my day jobs. That's what we call them. I'm an axe thrower, and I'm a server.
The country axe thrower.
I am, and I have so much fun doing it, and I feel like that's a win. If any job you do, it feels like you get to perform, do what you want, and also get paid for it, and also you like what you're doing, then you have to consider that a success. You have to. So that's what I do, and I'm just now, I feel like, getting started. I've been here for 7-8 years, but I'm like, now is when we're really gonna start
you
doing
just
some
you're getting
things.
comfortable now.
Yeah, comfortable.
See, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. See,
It
you really
is
trying
that.
no.
Love it.
You from the South too.
I am from the
Don't
South. I can
look,
do it.
see, stop. You better
Now
stop.
listen. No, here's the thing. People where I'm from, you know, in our town, they're all, first of all, you know, some of
She
them.
been trying to pull this the whole time.
It's worth bringing up, you know, because it goes back to this idea, like, what is success, and you know, what is an actor really? Because like a few years back, I remember one of our friends from school coming at one of my speeches, if you will, about certain things, and he
Piper's speeches.
One of my speeches.
Her speeches, they're legendary. She said it. She said it very nicely.
Yeah.
You should go into politics.
Right.
You smooth that over.
Speeches. Okay. And yeah, they responded. They're like, okay, Miss, you know, fake New York actress or whatever, like, you know, like failed actress or whatever. And I was like, that's hilarious. Like, that's really funny. You know, that's real. And I think a lot of people in our hometown think, oh, well, you come from the country, you go to the city, and then you want to sort of speak about the country in a certain way. And it's not that you look down on any of the places. You know, I think there are so many positives about Charlotte, North Carolina, as many as there are about New York City. They're just different things that are good about those places, right? Mm-hmm. But people all the time are like, well, you don't get to, you know, talk about the South. And I'm like, it's because I'm from the South that I get to talk about the South, actually. You know, it's because I come from a place where I grew up from, like, a good home and a good family, and like, you know, not by any means what you would think of as like a stereotypical, you know, my family. Like, they're different. They're different.
Yeah, they're interesting. They're definitely the coolest parents you're gonna meet, for sure.
They're a lot more liberal, and they're a lot more experienced. You know, my father lived all over the world, and my mom was a general humanitarian from her entire life. So I think it's, you know, they get offended too. They're like, watch what you say, you know, when you say anything or whatever.
They always been like that. I love them. They always been like that, for sure.
Yeah, but you know, again, it's like
But that's why everybody that know you, know your family, they know you always coming from a good place with everything, and you genuine because of that.
I do intend to be. And you know, and when I first came to New York, one of the things about my school, they were like, we have to talk about, you know, what you're going to be in this industry based off of what you seem like as a person. And they would always say to me, you know, you have to be really careful, because you could be really nice and you could be really sweet, but you could also be absolutely awful and terrible human, you know? Like, we can't always really tell. And I'm like, I don't know how anyone could think anything about of my intentions, you know? My intentions are always good. How they get executed, you know, we all make mistakes, right? But that's why I try to have grace and forgiveness. And my dad taught me a lot about that. He's like, people were so forgiving towards me that there's no way I can't be completely forgiving towards everyone else about the things that, you know, I put people through when I was growing up. So I say everything with love. I love North Carolina. I am North Carolina through and through. For the rest of my life, will be born and raised North Carolina. I like make it at a point to tell people when they're like, where are you from? You're not from New York. I'm like, I'm from North Carolina.
Oh yeah, they're gonna ask for sure. You do too much talking, they're gonna ask. Where you from? Where you from?
But you know, it's like, as soon as you think you're coming from New York, and you get in the car and you're like, ugh. And you get out of the plane, and you get in North Carolina, you get in the car and around your relatives for 5 minutes, you're like, So when we going to Waffle House, like what's up? You
Yeah.
know, it's being around the South. You slip back into your
Yeah, I
original
know it
ways.
gets real slow down there when you down there now. It's fast. You walk out the front door and it's like things going to do.
Yeah. But I mean, I had some really great teachers when I came here, and one of them was a Russian lady, and she was like, "Listen, a cat in the South is not the same as a cat in the North." And I thought about it, and I was like, "You're right. You're
Definitely
completely
not.
right.
It
Like
can't be.
they
It can't
can't
be.
be.
You
They
know,
can't be because they live around all
totally
kinds of
different.
circumstances
Yeah,
that
different.
are specific to them. So it's like just each and every time people get offensive, it's never meant as a place of offense to say this is my observation of how different things are, but they are different, and you can learn from both of them and then come back and say, no, let me tell you about what I learned so that we can make things better here, and then I can take the things here and I can go back to the city and I can make things better there, and it's all like working in a perfect harmony if you let it, and if you are open to the way in which things can teach you and inspire you.
So, speaking of inspiration, if there's anything you could go back and say to yourself, years ago before you did everything, like what would you say?
um I would say that I don't want to sound a certain type of way.
Go say
I
it. Go ahead.
I
This is what you would say to yourself.
I
You
would
can't speak for nobody
say
else.
the best way to say things is that nobody knows anything about anything. Don't let people discourage you. Only let people encourage you, because however much of a problem kid I was when I was our age, I did know some things about what I was going to do. And I did know some things about where I was going to go. And I was crazy, but my teachers at the time, I think, either, loved or hated that about me, and they thought, a lot of them were like, she eventually will do something, right? Like she'll get here or there. But a lot of people, whether they meant to or not, you know, just like the mentality and the mindset a lot of the time, because those people that we grew up around, a lot of them didn't have the same opportunities when they were growing up or the resources to get out and go to the city. I was very fortunate that when I was going, I had a support system and I had the funds to be able to at least get into the city. I couldn't have sustained if I didn't have work in the city, but um, I mean, some people have endless amounts of funds, it seems, and that's a whole different life, and I love that for them. That was not my case. But I, in general, just was a diehard, fire breathing, I'm gonna be an actress, and I I made it out of the town, and I made it to Charlotte, and I love and am so thankful for my progress in Charlotte, because without Charlotte, I would have never made it to New York City. And then I got to New York City, and now in New York City, I'm like, well, where next from here? Because I could go pretty much anywhere in the States after this, But it's it's just a matter of just knowing that if you have a vision or if you have something you really want, that you shouldn't let people tell you can't do it. Yes, it does take a lot of work and a lot of effort and a community or a team of people, but if you want to do it, no one is going to be there to tell you anything, because at the end of the day, people have no idea how things will end up and how people will change and grow.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's
Yeah.
dope. So, is there anything else you want to leave the people with before we get up out of here?
Um, I don't think so. I
You
mean,
give them your social media so they can follow
social
you.
media, Piper Parks, PiperParks. I'm definitely on Instagram. I need to get on the talk. I'm not on the talk. Is that what they call it?
You know they don't act old. Don't do that. You trying to play? You making us look bad. Is that what they call it? Sound like you 55, 60.
Is it the TikTok?
You know it's TikTok.
I know it's TikTok, but they call it the talk or something, don't they?
No, they don't like that. Go.
Okay, Boosie. All right now. All right.
Nah, Piper used to be the cool. She was the coolest girl in high school anyway. Because
incorrect. I wore pink Skechers. I wore a bun on the top of my head.
It was lit every
and
Friday.
A yellow pullover with a Raider on it.
And every Friday where we was at your house.
Okay, that's irrelevant.
It was a great time. And you was also the coolest because you changed your name to Piper. Like that was that was legendary. And nobody know you could do it at that point in time.
I tell people that all the time. I do. I tell people when they ask me, and I'm like, yeah, it's not really like my birth name. They're like, what do you mean it's not your birth name? I'm like, well, when I was 16, I decided to go by that name. It came down to like a list that I made for myself. It came between Ollie and Piper. And so we went with Piper. Yes. Yes, Ollie was the
Piper
name.
Is cool. I like Piper.
There was a girl in 11th grade. She's like, my dad's name is Ollie. So I was like, all right, maybe not Ollie. So we went with Piper. But yeah, now it's quite normal to change your name and go by a different name.
Yeah, right.
And all that stuff.
Then people was not doing it. Right?
Yeah, I'm basically, like rappers do that, right? Like they have their name.
Yeah, you basically a rapper.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, see, you go spit a bar. That was not a bar. What was it? I don't know.
No. That's the next segment. All right.
Okay. You go spit on the next segment.
Yeah, that's a secret. That's a mystery. We gotta keep that.
Yeah, but
we want the people to come back.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do another segment for that because I gotta get them bars out of you for sure. So I want to thank you for allowing me to come through and do an interview. And we're gonna do another one for real. And next time it'll be after you book that the little project you was talking about.
Right. Yeah.
So I appreciate y'all tuning in. And until next time, y'all know what to do. Keep it in the streets.
Are you ready, Katie? Pull up in a spaceship, feeling like the Jetsons. Probably out of the universe, driving on a mission. I've been searching far and wide, chasing all the visions. Burning all the reefer up, feeling like the Jetsons. I'ma be supreme, yeah, let's be supreme. I'ma be supreme, yeah, let's be supreme, yeah. Pop up out of space, cool, we gon' find a